Writing. The sun bled slowly into the horizon, staining the desert sky with shades of rust and gold. A dry wind whispered across the empty plains, carrying the scent of dust and something darker, something old. In the distance, the lonely town of Hollow Ridge crouched beneath the dying light, its crooked buildings casting long, skeletal shadows. It was a place where secrets clung to the walls like cobwebs and the past never truly died. A lone rider approached from the west, his silhouette sharp against the glowing sky. His coat flapped behind him like a tattered flag, and his hat sat low over eyes hardened by years of silence and sorrow. The horse beneath him moved with weary determination, its hooves kicking up pale clouds of dust. The man's name was Silas Crowe, though few still lived who remembered it, and those who did wished they didn't. As he entered the town, the chatter of voices died. A woman gathering laundry froze, her hands trembling as she watched him pass. A pair of gamblers standing outside the saloon went pale and retreated inside without a word. Even the piano, once lively with reckless tunes, faltered into silence. Elias dismounted slowly, tying his horse to the hitching post outside the saloon. The sign above creaked in the wind, its faded letters barely legible. He stepped inside, the floorboards groaning beneath his boots. The smell of whiskey and sweat hung thick in the air. Shadows pooled in the corners, and every eye turned toward him. A glass slipped from a bartender's hand and shattered on the floor. "Well," muttered a grizzled man at the far end of the bar, "I'll be damned. The ghost of Hollow Ridge rides again." Elias removed his hat, revealing streaks of silver in his dark hair. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of thunder. "I'm looking for Samuel Drake." The name struck the room like a gunshot. No one spoke. No one moved. The bartender swallowed hard. "You won't find him here." "But I will find him," Elias replied, his gaze unyielding. A chair scraped across the floor. A broad-shouldered man with a scar carved across his cheek stood slowly, resting a hand on the grip of his revolver. "Drake's a powerful man. Runs this town. You'd be wise to ride away while you still can." Elias's eyes were cold as winter steel. "I rode 200 miles to bury him. I don't intend to leave without a shovel." The scarred man smirked. "Then you'll be needing a coffin." His hand moved like lightning. But Elias was faster. 2 shots thundered through the saloon. Smoke curled in the air. When it cleared, the scarred man lay sprawled on the floor, a crimson bloom spreading across his chest. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. Elias holstered his revolver and placed a silver coin on the bar. "For the broken glass." He turned and walked out into the fading light. Night settled over Hollow Ridge like a shroud. Lanterns flickered to life, casting trembling halos on the dusty streets. Elias made his way to the old boarding house at the edge of town. The door creaked open before he could knock. An elderly woman stood there, her lined face pale with disbelief. "Elias," she whispered. He nodded. "Hello, Martha." Tears welled in her eyes. "We thought you were dead." "So did I," he said quietly. "Is he still here?" Her expression darkened. "Drake owns everything now. The mines, the land, even the law. Folks who cross him don't live long." "I'm not afraid of dying," Elias replied. "I'm afraid of leaving things unfinished." Martha hesitated before stepping aside. "You can stay the night. But leave before dawn. He'll come for you." Elias removed his coat and sat by the window, staring into the darkness. "I hope he does." The night was restless. The wind rattled the shutters, and somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled beneath the pale moon. Sleep never came. Instead, memories crept through the silence, memories soaked in blood and regret. 10 years ago, Hollow Ridge had been a hopeful town. Elias and Samuel Drake had built it together, partners bound by ambition and trust. They struck silver in the hills, turning dust into fortune. But greed had a way of poisoning even the strongest bonds. Drake wanted it all. And one night, he took it. The mine exploded in a storm of fire and stone, killing dozens. Elias survived, but his wife and young son did not. The townsfolk believed it was an accident. Only Elias knew the truth. He had seen Drake fleeing the scene, the fuse still burning behind him. When Elias confronted him, Drake had smiled. "Progress demands sacrifice," he had said. Elias left Hollow Ridge that night, swearing vengeance. Now he had returned to claim it. Just before dawn, hoofbeats thundered through the streets. Elias watched from the window as a group of armed riders surrounded the boarding house. Their leader stepped forward, his silhouette unmistakable. Samuel Drake. He had aged well, his silver hair neatly combed, his black coat immaculate. But his eyes were as cold and cruel as ever. "Come out, Crowe," Drake called. "Let's finish what we started." Elias stepped into the pale light of morning, revolver resting at his side. "I was hoping you'd say that." Drake smiled. "You should have stayed dead. You should have let them live." For a moment, the world held its breath. Then the guns roared. Bullets tore through the air, splintering wood and shattering glass. Elias moved with deadly precision, his shots swift and merciless. One by one, Drake's men fell, their bodies collapsing into the dust. Smoke and echoes filled the street. When the last shot faded, only two men remained standing. Elias and Drake. The town watched from shuttered windows, too terrified to intervene. Drake drew his revolver slowly, his smirk unwavering. "You always were the faster gun. But you never were the smarter man." "Maybe," Elias said. "But I never was a coward." They faced each other beneath the rising sun. The wind whispered. A single heartbeat passed. Then they fired. Two shots cracked like thunder. Elias staggered, pain exploding through his side. But Drake's eyes widened in shock as a dark stain spread across his chest. His revolver slipped from his grasp, clattering onto the dirt. He fell to his knees. "You lost everything," Drake rasped. Elias stepped closer, his voice hollow. "So did you." Drake laughed weakly, blood staining his lips. "You still don't understand, do you? What are you talking about?" Drake's smile twisted. "The explosion, it wasn't meant for your family. It was meant for you. You were going to expose me. They died because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time." The word struck like a blade to the heart. "You're lying," Elias whispered. "Am I?" Drake coughed. "Check the mine, and you'll see the truth." With that, Samuel Drake collapsed into the dust, his life spilling into the earth. Silence fell over Hollow Ridge. Days later, Elias stood at the mouth of the abandoned mine. The entrance yawned like a grave, cold and silent. Armed with a lantern, he stepped inside. The air was thick with decay, and the walls shimmered faintly with veins of silver. Deep within the darkness, he found it, a sealed chamber hidden behind fallen beams. Inside lay a skeleton clutching a rusted revolver. Beside it rested a charred journal. With trembling hands, Elias opened it. The handwriting was unmistakable. His own. The truth unfolded in fading ink. Years ago, consumed by anger and desperation, Elias had discovered Drake's corruption. To stop him, he had planted explosives, intending only to destroy the illegal tunnels. But he miscalculated. The blast had been far greater than he anticipated. Drake had merely seized the opportunity to shift the blame. Elias dropped the journal, his breath trembling. He had killed them. His wife. His son. Innocent men. The weight of the revelation crushed him, stealing the air from his lungs. Memories twisted into nightmares, and the past he had clung to shattered into dust. Outside, thunder rumbled across the sky. Rain began to fall. Elias stumbled from the mine, his face pale as death. The town stood silent, watching him emerge like a ghost. Without a word, he walked to the cemetery on the hill. He knelt before two weathered graves. "I came for revenge," he whispered. "But all I found was the truth." The rain fell harder, washing away the dust and blood. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he said softly. "But I will carry this until my last breath." He placed his revolver on the grave and turned away. As dawn broke through the storm, Elias Crowe walked toward the horizon, unarmed and alone. The wind carried his footsteps into the vast emptiness of the frontier, where justice and regret often rode side by side. Behind him, Hollow Ridge stood quiet at last, a town freed from its sins, yet forever haunted by them. And as the sun rose over the endless plains, the legend of Elias Crowe faded into the dust, leaving behind only whispers of a man who had come seeking vengeance, and found something far more terrifying. The truth.